Welcome back to the Mystery Element. Now let's begin. In the vast expanse of the Arctic, where the sun dipped below the horizon for months on end, a team of scientists found themselves in a desperate struggle for survival. They were on a mission funded by a wealthy corporation, seeking to study the effects of climate change on polar bear populations. What started as a routine expedition quickly turned into a chilling tale of fear and survival. Dr. Rachel Lane, a seasoned biologist specializing in Arctic fauna, led the team. Her expertise was matched only by her determination to uncover the truth about the polar bears' dwindling numbers and their increasingly aggressive behavior. With her were Dr. Mark Jensen, an environmental scientist mapping the ice patterns, and Dr. Sarah Brooks, an expert in animal behavior, whose calm demeanor masked a profound concern for their safety. The team set up their research camp on the edge of a vast ice field, miles away from the nearest human settlement. As they settled into their routine, analyzing data and taking samples, they noticed peculiar patterns in the bears' movements. Normally solitary creatures, the polar bears seemed to be congregating in larger groups than usual, exhibiting signs of heightened aggression. One bitterly cold evening, as the scientists huddled in their makeshift lab, a radio transmission crackled through their equipment. It was a distress call from another research team several miles away, under attack by a pack of polar bears. Fear gripped the scientists as they realized they might be facing a similar fate. "We need to fortify our camp," Rachel declared, her voice steady despite the rising tension. They reinforced their perimeter with electric fences and set up alarms to warn of approaching danger. Despite their precautions, the sense of unease lingered like a ghost in the icy air. Days passed without incident, but the eerie silence was shattered one morning by the distant sound of roaring bears. Sarah rushed to the observation post and peered through her binoculars. Her heart sank as she counted not one, but 6 massive polar bears lumbering toward them with purposeful strides. "They're coming for us," she whispered, her breath visible in the freezing air. The scientists scrambled to ready their defenses. Mark armed himself with a tranquilizer gun while Rachel and Sarah prepared to activate the electric fence. The bears approached in a relentless advance, their fur bristling with aggression. One bear, larger and more imposing than the rest, seemed to lead the pack. "They're not behaving normally," Mark muttered, his hands trembling slightly as he aimed the tranquilizer gun. Before they could react, the largest bear lunged at the fence with a thunderous roar. The electric charge sparked briefly, but the bear's sheer size and determination overwhelmed the barrier. With a sickening crack, the fence gave way, leaving the scientists exposed and vulnerable. Sarah fired her flare gun into the sky, hoping to scare the bears away, but they were undeterred. The pack closed in, circling the camp with predatory intent. Rachel shouted orders, her voice tinged with desperation as she tried to rally her team. "Stay together, back to back." The scientists moved as one, keeping their eyes fixed on the encroaching threat. The bears circled closer, their breath forming clouds of steam in the frigid air. Then, without warning, the lead bear reared up on its hind legs and charged straight at Rachel. Instinct took over. Rachel fired her tranquilizer gun, hitting the bear square in the chest. It stumbled briefly, but its momentum carried it forward. Sarah stepped in, firing her flare gun directly into the bear's face. The creature roared in pain, swiping at the air with massive claws. In the chaos, Mark managed to hit another bear with a tranquilizer dart, causing it to stumble and fall. But their numbers were overwhelming. With each passing moment, the scientists grew more fatigued, their movements slower and less coordinated. "We need to get to the emergency shelter," Rachel shouted over the din of snarling bears. They made a break for the shelter, running through the knee-deep snow with the bears hot on their heels. Adrenaline fueled their desperate sprint as they reached the reinforced structure. Rachel slammed the door shut behind them, locking it with shaking hands. Inside the shelter, they collapsed against the cold metal walls, gasping for breath. Through a small window, they watched as the bears prowled outside, their shadows flickering in the dim Arctic twilight. "We can't stay here forever," Mark said, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. Rachel nodded grimly. "We need a plan. They won't leave us alone." Hours passed in tense silence as they debated their options. The bears showed no signs of leaving, their massive forms pacing restlessly outside. Sarah, ever the strategist, suggested using their remaining tranquilizer darts to create a distraction while they made a run for their snowmobiles parked some distance away. "It's risky," Rachel admitted, "but it might be our only chance." They waited until darkness cloaked the Arctic landscape in an inky blackness. With careful precision, they opened the shelter door just wide enough to launch a tranquilizer dart into the nearest bear. The creature roared in surprise and pain, drawing the attention of its companions. Seizing the opportunity, the scientists sprinted through the snow toward the snowmobiles. The bears gave chase, their roars echoing through the frozen air. Sarah managed to fire off another flare, illuminating the path ahead. They reached the snowmobiles just as the bears closed in. With trembling hands, they started the engines and sped away into the Arctic night. Behind them, the bears' furious roars faded into the distance. As they drove towards safety, relief washed over them in waves. They had survived the harrowing encounter with the Arctic's apex predators. But the mystery of the bears' behavior lingered in their minds like a haunting specter. Months later, back in the safety of civilization, Rachel received a package in the mail. Inside was a flash drive containing data from their expedition, along with a note from an anonymous sender. "The truth lies beneath the ice," the note read cryptically. Rachel shared the data with her team, and together they uncovered startling evidence of human interference in the bear's habitat. The corporation funding their research had been conducting clandestine experiments, altering the bears' behavior to weaponize them for military purposes. The revelation sent shockwaves through the scientific community and sparked international outcry. The corporation was exposed and held accountable for its actions, but the scars of their ordeal in the Arctic would never fully heal. As for the polar bears, their future remained uncertain. The scientists vowed to continue their research, determined to protect the majestic creatures they had come so close to losing. And so, amidst the icy silence of the Arctic, a cautionary tale emerged, a reminder of the delicate balance between humanity and nature, and the chilling consequences of tampering with forces beyond our control.